All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Radio, very excited to be talking to an individual who is set up for a very intriguing fight at Havoc FC 17, which goes down on February the 9th. We've got bare knuckle boxing action coming to Red Deer, and we've got Steve Roy and Grayson Wells clashing with each other, and great having Grayson on Bare Knuckle Radio to talk about this very interesting fight. And yeah, just wondering how your day's going so far there, Grayson.
So far, so good, buddy. I appreciate the intro there. Sundays are my rest days, so I'm not doing much today, man. It's pretty cold out here. Probably, I'm not sure what part of Canada you're from. You're from out east, right?
I'm Ontario, yeah.
Okay, I'm not too sure what the weather is out there, but out here on the west coast, it got a little bit cold for us BCers. So I'm just staying inside today, man, resting up and doing all my food prep kind of stuff and just relaxing.
Yeah, right on, man. Similar kind of Sundays to what I usually have. You had a post a bit ago, though, that I kind of found to be interesting because obviously this is a bare knuckle boxing fight, which I've seen in all the promotional material. But I saw you had a post talking about a bare knuckle boxing heavyweight championship. Is there like a Havoc belt involved in this upcoming fight you have here?
There is, yes. They are putting up a title belt for this one. It'll be the first one in Canada, so I'm pretty proud to be competing for that.
I mean, as you should, man. I mean, just an exemplary run so far within MMA, just having previously been the Havoc FC heavyweight champion under MMA rules, and then, multiple title challenges with unified MMA. I mean, where does this rank kind of within that, like the potential to cement yourself as, I mean, not just the Havoc FC bare knuckle heavyweight champion, which is impressive in its own right for sure, but just like you said, I mean, becoming like a cemented bare knuckle boxing champion in Canada, like a lot of historical connotations, it seems like.
Well, that's the thing, right, is that when I got offered this fight, bare knuckle boxing has always been a bucket list kind of thing for me ever since. I mean, the bare knuckle boxing, I mean, it's as old, probably one of the oldest sports you can get. But I mean, as far as sanctioned by the athletic commissions and stuff, I believe this is the first sanctioned one in Canada. And just to be part of that in history and just to have that as part of my legacy, it's just exciting. I started fighting. I've been fighting for 25 years in combat sports. So I was around when MMA started and MMA came up and turned into a thing. And then now with the growing popularity of bare knuckle boxing, I mean, it's arguably one of the fastest growing sports. It's just exploding all over the place, right? So I'm really proud to be a part of a new sport coming to Canada, and yeah, I'm happy to do it for Havoc. They've always treated me well. I got lots of family out there, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just, I mean, couldn't be coming at a better time because, I mean, like you said, I mean, making a stamp in history, and as far as like the first event in Canada in the modern era to have multiple bare knuckle boxing fights going on in the same evening, but even just like some things going on a broader level with BKFC looking to come to Alberta and doing so in March and everything like that. So it just really seems like the sport is blowing up too, like even a lot of like the big federations like encroaching into Canada and getting their toes wet in that market and stuff like that. So it seems like a lot of cool things are happening around as well, in addition to like what you're immersed in too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I noticed that not too long after Havoc announced my bare knuckle fight, BKFC, I believe they're coming up. They're going to the River Cree, I believe, in Edmonton a couple weeks after, or maybe a month after, or something like that. So I kind of snuck in under there just to be the first guy, right? But yeah, man, it's such an interesting sport, and one of the things that I'm really enjoying about training for this fight is that it's I didn't really see too much difference in the beginning between bare knuckle and just regular boxing, but like once I've started to do it and I've started to break everything down, it's almost like an entirely different sport. It's just there's so many intricacies of it, and it's not one of those sports where MMA and boxing, I was always kind of using my size as an advantage, right? I kind of brewed my way through things. I got lots of first round knockouts and stuff like that, but it was it was just powering through things. But with bare knuckle boxing, I mean, you start throwing bombs like that, you're going to break your hand, right? So I've been enjoying taking the time to break everything down, and like I said, learn all the intricacies of actual bare knuckle boxing. And there's, to be honest, there's quite it's almost an entirely different sport.
And I'm a stickler for the details with bare knuckle, just because it is, I mean, a very interesting sport, and as far as like it is kind of in a way the oldest combat sport, but just this new modern wave and some different techniques people are doing. I guess I'm curious for you to, expound upon that a bit more, like some of the more specific, localized research you've been doing on bare knuckle and the intricacies of the game, just to get more insights. Or maybe is it just like a tricks of the trade, like maybe you don't want the competitors knowing what's going on? I guess I'm curious on that.
Well, I mean, it is still a fight, right? We are just going to punch each other in the face, so there's not too much surprise there. But as far as, I think of bare knuckle boxing as almost the purest of the combat sports, because with MMA you have the gloves, even though they're 4 ounce. You still have some protection on your hand, so you're not really thinking about breaking your hand. You're just punching as hard as you can. And then obviously with boxing, you got the 12 ounce when you fight, or the 10 ounce, or whatever it is. And so you have quite a bit of cushioning there, right? So it's not like you can just swing wildly for the fences and hope for the best. You know what I mean? But so it's more of a trying to be like almost pull the power back a little bit. Like I know that I've knocked lots of guys out, so I know that the power is there. So it's almost learning how to be more of a technician and be more of a sniper, if you will. So like being super accurate with your shots, not getting pulled into a brawl, not getting too excited and too worked up where you're just swinging wildly. It's like you gotta dial it back a little bit. So dial the power back a little bit, and then up the technical side of it, and the speed and the footwork and all that. So it's been really exciting to learn this the new sport coming up.
And it's interesting because I interview a lot of bare knuckle fighters, and some of them swear by certain techniques, whereas others don't really indulge much in certain techniques. Like I feel like one of the big things is like people either doing certain hand strengthening techniques or not really going that route. Like sometimes guys will work with like those wooden Muay Thai boards with like the bare hands, like gripping sand, things of that persuasion. And then some guys are kind of like, I've been training for years, my hands are plenty galvanized and strong, I don't need to really do that. Like where are you at in that sense? Have you been using any like specific hand strengthening techniques, or not so much?
Well, I put quite a bit of emphasis on my weight strength and conditioning program. So I have been doing lots of grip strength, I guess would be the name for that. So, just holding plates with my fingers, holding heavy dumbbells, stuff like that, doing kettlebell, lots of kettlebell work. So I'm really making sure my wrist is strong. I'm not doing so much of like the old school, like punching rice bags and dipping my hands in glass kind of shit. But,
Yeah.
That's kind of old school Jean-Claude Van Damme. As cool as that would be, I haven't done too much of that. No, I've just been mostly working on conditioning and accuracy, and trying to just keep the fight. Just keep it as. So the one thing that I've noticed about watching lots of bare knuckle boxing fights, is there's an added intensity to it. I feel like, as opposed to boxing, I feel like the guys, they just get pulled into brawls like right off the bat, and which makes it pretty wild. And one of the things that I've heard bare knuckle boxers say a lot is that it hurts more than they thought it would. So that should be exciting. But I've just been working mostly on my technique and conditioning.
Yeah, it's very interesting just the way you are talking about it, because I was actually watching some of your previous MMA fights over again as I was kind of doing some of the research. And I mean, you do throw some very hard bombs too, so it's interesting and very savvy to hear you talk about like the understanding of the fact that, hey, I can't necessarily, get away with doing this in like a bare knuckle fight, because I'll end up exploding my hand potentially. So yeah, I mean, it's just cool to hear how you're, I guess, analyzing the game and everything.
Yeah, I put quite a bit into it, and obviously you know that Steve and I fought before, right, for the Havoc MMA title, and I hadn't watched that fight in a long time, and then when I took this fight, I watched it again, and I realized that a couple things. I realized that first fight with Steve Roy, I almost got lucky in a way, because right off the bat, he caught one of my kicks, and he got me on the ground, but he wasn't able to get his second hook in. I managed to just hold on to his leg, so he wasn't able to take my back, and then I managed to shimmy him off and get on top of him, and then I pretty much, once I was on top of Steve, I took him down again in the second round and held him there, but I used my size to my advantage, and I think I probably had, by the time we fought, 10 to 15 pounds on him, right, which in MMA is like a pretty big deal if you know how to use it properly. But in this fight, I would almost think, people would say that I'm a favorite probably just because of that MMA win, but I honestly feel that Steve has the advantage in this one on his feet, because if you watch any of his fights, he's super light on his feet, he's got good head movement, and like I said before, I'll probably still have a little bit of size on him this fight, but because it's not MMA, it's almost like a negative on me, right? I have a little bit more muscle, I'm a little bit heavier, so I'm a little bit slower on my feet, so it's exciting and giving me motivation to train for this, because I do feel that Steve has the advantage in this fight, even though I won the first one.
I was going to say, you're on the same wavelength as me, I feel. I love that analysis with the previous fight and just how you're looking at this one coming up. I guess within what you're talking about, I'm curious as to some of the specifics on the rule set for this upcoming fight, because for instance, BKB has a rule set that doesn't have, any clinch fighting. They kind of break it up like how they do gloved boxing, and it's more at-range fighting in the UK versus that BKFC rule set that has the hybrid clinch position, the active in fighting sort of approach. What's the rule set in a bare knuckle sense for this upcoming contest with Roy? Because you're talking about how maybe in the striking you're at a bit of a disadvantage, but if there is that more BKFC kind of rule set, perhaps your past MMA and Muay Thai experience can kind of shine through. Do you can you give me insights into the specifics on that, I suppose?
Well, I haven't talked to the ref yet, so I'm not entirely sure of what the clinching rules are, whether it's a 10-second thing or if there's any dirty boxing allowed, which I guess I should probably find that out, because that could be a huge advantage. But yeah, I believe that it's going to be a quick break, and I'll have to utilize my range, and with him being a little bit faster and a little bit quicker on his feet, I'm really hoping to just keep him at bay with my jab and setting up that too,
Yeah, and also the way you're talking about it is interesting too, just because it seems like, obviously you're going to go out there to, entertain as you always do. I feel like anyone that's seen your fights can attest to that, but it seems like you're looking at this in a very methodical kind of way, just because I remember in a previous MMA Empire where you were interview rather, it was a feature article, you were asked about your favorite MMA fight, and you were like, oh, I really liked Brian Stan versus Vanderlei Silva, and you were kind of talking about the street fighting days in Red Deer. It seems like you're looking at this fight in a way that's very, I guess, composed and not looking to overextend in a wild sort of way, almost just realizing the differences in this sport. Is that kind of a fair way to characterize that almost?
Yeah, most definitely. Almost the entirety of my career, I built off being a brawler and getting the job done quick. And I think I've only went the distance one time in all of my fights, win or lose. So they're all over pretty quick. And as much as I don't mind getting into a brawl, I still want to have I want to entertain. We're fighting main event. It's the first title bare knuckle boxing in Canada, so I would like to put on a show for the fans and not have it over right away and put on like I said, a show. Hopefully it goes all 6 rounds and we actually get to get some experience in there and then put on a show for these guys. So I would like to showcase my skills and not just go in there and headhunt and look for the knockout. You know, if it comes, it comes. But I would also like, you know, I'm old school and like I want like, you know, like a 30 style boxing, put up your dukes kind of fist fight. You know, like a fisticuff.
Yeah, no, I get what you're laying down, man, and it seems like you're looking at this in like a bit more of like a long-term kind of way too. Like it seems like you want to like really sink your teeth into this sport and kind of like make a run at it with like the landscape and some of the factors we've been talking about earlier. Is that a fair way to kind of characterize that? It seems like you're fired up about maybe even taking on like a few bare knuckle fights with time.
Yeah, you know, that's another thing about the boxing is that I'm able to train more consistently because I'm just working my hands, right? So, you know, there's always stuff I can do. And where as far as MMA, you know, I'm pretty old to be fighting. Let's be honest, I'm 45 now, right? Which is fucking dinosaur in fight years, unless you're Lee Mean. But
Yeah.
So it's always the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu and like getting kicked and getting elbowed and getting kneed, like those are all really hard on the training aspect of MMA. So it's like it's rarely, so even my last 3 MMA fights, I just wasn't healthy for any of them. I just would never say that because that's just an excuse, right? Nobody really gives a shit why you lost. That's just why I lost. But it's always something, especially as you get older with the wrestling and the grappling and, you know, the kicks, you're always getting injured. But with my hands, just training hands, you know, if you're around the proper guys, you don't got to spar every day. Like I only spar a little bit, just to save the damage on the head. But, you know, you can hit pads every day, or you can hit the bag every day, or you can do circuits every day. So it's not as taxing on the body as training for MMA. So who knows? Who knows where this goes, you know? It could open some doors for me.
And that's cool you say that because anecdotally, talking to fighters who have more of an MMA base crossing over into bare knuckle, like they really do mention that a fair bit, and it definitely makes sense, just like the, you know, subverting of the grappling, and I mean, like you said, some of the other strikes, like the leg kicks and the knees, it just really creates a certain sense of wear and tear, whereas like it's a much more, I guess, like focused kind of thing with the bare knuckle there. So yeah, I mean, good to hear that it's, you know, a bit easier on the body in this camp, but I guess in kind of asking about that, I'm sort of wondering where you're, you know, honing the skills at, because you've definitely trained at like a few places over the years, like Toshido MMA, I remember, and then I saw you with Koltar Gill at Mamba MMA, and then Dan Golkar at Scorpion MMA. Like, whereabouts are you training at ahead of this fight?
Right now, I'm training at Matrix Boxing in Abbotsford, and it's strictly a boxing club, and you know, one of the requirements for me agreeing to take this fight is that I had to find just a strictly boxing gym, right? Because it is, once I started looking into it, I'm like, okay, the stance and everything is completely different than MMA. So I didn't want to be doing my training at an MMA gym when it's not an MMA fight and everything. You know, I mean, you're still throwing punches, don't get me wrong, but just like I said, the intricacies of it, you know, your stance is a little bit different, the rounds are different, the rules are different, so like I said, it is an entirely different sport, so I wanted to make sure that I joined a reputable boxing gym, and there was lots of good guys, lots of good partners. You know, I had like one head coach, and then that was it, so yeah, I joined up at Matrix Boxing in Abbotsford.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Breaking it down like that, I'd love to hear that, man. I guess I'm curious with like the outcome here, because I mean, I feel like the fights that you usually get matched up in, there's kind of that like unifying aspect of like that 100% finishing rate being there large in part, like across your own resume and then your opponent's resume as well. I mean, you were also talking about like wanting to, you know, get in a few rounds and everything like that, but are we thinking that streak of no fights going the distance ultimately continues, or are you not even thinking of it like that and just kind of like see what the fight presents and then kind of be adaptable and all?
Well, you know, everybody, you know, you listen to guys predict the fight, and you know, there's only so many answers that you hear. They're looking for the knockout. You know, I predict to win. And you know what? It's at this point in my career, I've been fighting for so long that for me it's more about the journey than the outcome. Like I'm really enjoying training, and having this fight, having something to train for has really brought me through a tough time in my life. So I'm really grateful to have somebody to train for, and I'm just putting in all the work that I can and be as positive I can. And as far as the outcome goes, win or lose, of course I'd love to win. Who wouldn't love to win, right? Like it'd be super important to me to win a title. If as long as I have a good fight and I do my best and I leave it all out there, then I know from past experiences that is what matters the most in the long run. So I just want to be healthy. I want to show up healthy, in shape, and I want to put on a good show for the fans, and then whatever happens from there.
No, I love hearing that, man. That's such like a broader kind of take, because it's more of like, because I mean, the fight is the fight. I mean, you articulated it well. Obviously, you would like to win, but it's the broader lifestyle aspects of like what the training brings. And I imagine there's a strong sense of, community and camaraderie among people you train with that's probably really beneficial during this tough time, as you kind of alluded to a bit ago.
Oh yeah, man! Like the camaraderie and like the brotherhood of going through something and training with somebody. I got one of my good friends. He was going to be coming out there cornering me, so it's like a bonding thing, right? You go with your body and you're going to a different city to go fight some guy, and like I don't know, it's just cool as hell, right? Like it's hard for me to hang the gloves up, because I just love that. I love the fight community. I think everybody should learn how to throw a punch, or at least get punched to know what it feels like. And it's just such a great community. And one of the other things I love about going back to not just Red Deer to fight, but pretty much, unified Havoc, fights down here at BFL or Mamba Fight Night. I enjoy going to, like, I soak it up now, right? I soak up the training, I soak up the journey, I soak up the fight, but I also like going to the weigh-ins, and then that's where you see all your peers and stuff, and your coaches from other teams and other cities that the only time you ever get to see those guys is when you're at fights, right? Like the reporters and like the athletic commission and the refs and the judges and promoters, and like, so I enjoy all of that. So it's like I really soak up just the entire lifestyle of it, right? So I'm really looking forward to getting back out there and seeing everybody again.
Yeah, no, I'm smiling hearing you talking about that, man. I mean, wholeheartedly agree. It's just, it's awesome to see everybody. I mean, just so many different roles and, people contributing, making all of this happen, and love to see that. I guess one of the last things I kind of wanted to, touch on, though, because, I mean, I've known you to get in some acting work over the years. I imagine some of that has been tabled, in preparing for this fight, but is that something you're still kind of looking to do a bit more of going forward, or are you more like focusing on seeing where this bare knuckle could potentially go? I guess I'm curious on that.
Well, there was in the summertime there was the writer's strike, and then there was the actor strike, and that just kind of all got sealed up and over about a month ago. So it has been taking a little bit of time for things to start rolling full steam up here in Canada, but productions are starting to film again. I'm not doing any stunt work or anything, just because I feel like maybe throwing myself on the ground might not be the best idea right before a fight.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing any stunt stuff, but I'm definitely still practicing my acting, and maybe having the heavyweight bare knuckle title will open up a few doors for me in that sense as well.
Yeah, even like the fighting potentially too, man. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe this is a bit of a pro wrestling kind of mindset, but I mean, like, who's to say you don't win that Havoc title and then show up to the BKFC event in Edmonton or something?
Yeah, it's like I really enjoy watching the entertainment kind of, I guess they call it the entertainment era of MMA. I'm not a big fan of like all the shit talking. I think Colby goes a little bit too far, and that's just me personally. I've never been one to trash talk any of my opponents. I actually all consider them brothers. Once we share space in the cage, then we have that bond as brothers for life. You know what I mean? And I just don't do well when I have to, like shit talk somebody. It's just not. Maybe I'm just old school or whatever. characters, right? You don't just have to be a shit talker. You got, like, you know, Sean O'Malley, and I mean, like, McGregor's obviously always one too, but, like, you know, if you just build yourself up something as, like, a character, and, like, you know, who knows what could become of it, right? You know, I start showing up at events, or, like, doing cross promotion, or, you know, who knows what could happen with this.
Yeah, no, such a cool time for sure, man. And I mean, this isn't really a question at all, but I just thought it was kind of cool seeing that post you had a while ago that where your good friend hooked you up with, like, a FaceTime with Michael Chandler. It seemed like you really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, man, that guy is, like, I'm really hoping for him because he's just been sitting and training and waiting for this McGregor fight, right, to pay off. And I mean, he did coach the Ultimate Fighter, which was super cool. But, you know, he's almost put all of his eggs in one basket waiting for this McGregor fight, right? So I really hope it pays off for him. And he's just such an exciting guy to watch, you know, like, win or lose, you know, like, you know, he's going out there throwing in. I think it's something to be, as fighters, you know, it's cool when you have fans and everybody thinks it's cool that you're a fighter, but you really appreciate the respect of your peers, right? I've always wanted to be, like, a fighter's fighter, which, you know, I'll take fights on, like, short notice. Like, I fought Christian Larson on 7 days notice, which, mind you, was not one of my smartest decisions because he broke my arm with a punch. But you know, you want to step up, and you want to put on these exciting fights, not just for the fans, but you want to have the respect of your peers. And I feel that Michael Chandler is a great example of that. Like, you look at his fights with Gaethje or with Eddie, you know, like, those are the craziest fights. And, like, look what he did to Tony Ferguson. I mean, like, the guy is an absolute legend. So yeah, it was an honor to have a little chat with him.
Yeah, well said, man. Great career so far, and yeah, similar situation. Hope that McGregor fight does pan out for him. They've been talking about June 29, but see how, you know, things fall into place there. But you've been really great with your time, Grayson. It's been fun getting to talk to you on this Sunday and everything ahead of what's a very intriguing fight. A lot of historical connotations and interesting ways this could play out in the future, as we kind of talked about. But in wanting to be mindful of your schedule and everything, man, I'm kind of curious if you have a final parting thought to add as we're sort of wrapping things up here, though.
Well, man, I just wanted to thanks for taking the time to talk to me and putting that out there. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And I just want to, you know, I hope it put on a good show for the fans. I hope everybody's excited, and I'm really looking forward to getting out there. And thanks to Havoc for having me out there and giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Red Deer on February 9th. I'm very excited for Havoc FC 17, and a lot going on with this, you know, heavyweight bare knuckle championship fight with Steve Roy, and just it being a rematch, albeit in a different combat sport. So many cool aspects to this one, and just really wanted to thank you for coming on Bare Knuckle Radio, Grayson. I'm really excited to check out this fight when it goes down, but until then, you enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dylan. Take care, pal.
All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Radio, very excited to be talking to an individual who competes at Havoc FC 17, which goes down on February the 9th. And a very intriguing heavyweight matchup set to go down, and a rematch, albeit in another combat sport, as Grayson Wells steps in there against Steve Roy. And great having Steve on the show. How's your day going so far there, man?
My day's going great. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Can't complain. Talking to fighters with big fights coming up, so doing what I enjoy. And I guess something I wanted to kind of talk about too, because I saw Grayson Wells had a post a couple months ago, I guess, at this point, talking about how this would be for the bare knuckle boxing heavyweight championship. Has Havoc communicated that there's a bare knuckle boxing heavyweight title on the line in this one here?
Yeah, so this is going to be for the heavyweight title. Going to be 6 rounds, 3-minute rounds, full title fight.
I mean, that's incredibly exciting, especially in, like, the historical context of this being, like, that first bare knuckle event in the modern era, whereby there's actually multiple bare knuckle boxing fights on one card. Like, there was a fight, I guess, like, a couple of years ago, and I think it was Lethbridge that went on, but this is, like, that first time where there's multiple bare knuckle boxing fights on a card, and then even a step above that, you know, establishing a championship. So just all that being said, like, how do you feel kind of being a part of this? It seems like some historical connotations are there for sure.
To be honest, Dylan, I couldn't be more excited. This is a great opportunity, like you were saying, just kind of to be a part of history. And also, this is my game. This is what I love to do. And even when I was fighting MMA, I was trying to coax guys into fighting, the scrappy boxing style. And I mean, it's a really cool opportunity. Just like you were saying, there's going to be multiple bare knuckle fights on the card. Lots of people kind of breaking into it, so it's going to be really interesting. A few of my other friends are on the card as well. Lee Meehan's just signed to fight as well, so it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say you're on the same wavelength. I was noticing that you had previously competed against Lee Meehan and him fighting on this event. Just, yeah, really exciting stuff. And even on like a broader level with the sport, just with BKFC looking to do their first show in Canada coming up in March there as they encroach into the Edmonton market, and just all these things going on. It seems like a very exciting time for the sport and everything like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a better word to describe bare knuckle boxing than exciting. So you're definitely hitting the nail on the head with that one.
And I guess when did this like enter onto your radar as something to do? I mean, it is an interesting kind of thing in certain regards, because like sometimes guys will almost like playfully compare it to like street fighting back in the day, but obviously like very, high level guys nowadays. And as much as it's like one of the older combat sports, this more like modern version and surge of the sport and everything has kind of taken hold and everything like that. So yeah, just curious to get your thoughts on that. Like, how long has this been something that's been on your radar as far as a combat sport you wanted to do?
I've always liked the bare knuckle style. I've been in quite a few street fights myself, unfortunately, but it's part of my heritage. I'm a Scottish boy, and the scrappy style is definitely what we like. And just again the excitement of it all, and it is a really cool sport, and it seems like a lot of big name guys are going that way. Very cool to see a lot of the ex-UFC guys, even some current UFC guys going that way. And then, like you're saying, even the high-level boxers. And the truth is, it ends up being such a exciting, interesting sport, because it isn't just a boxer's game. It isn't just a brawler's game. It takes more than that. You need a good chin. You need good speed. You need there's a lot that comes along with it. It's not just pure technique. You need to be tough as hell as well to get through this.
Yeah, well said. And during your MMA efforts, I saw a couple different affiliations on some of the aggregators out there, like Gracie, Mahumata, and Canadian Fighting Center also. Like, whereabouts are you working at nowadays as far as like preparing for this bare knuckle fight? Is it still similar like location and everything, or maybe a different spot, being that it's a different combat sport?
United Boxing Club in Winnipeg. Just great team there. Lots of high level athletes, super high level coaches as well. Been working alongside Kent Brown pretty closely. Very very knowledgeable boxing coach, and we've been meshing quite well.
And I guess, this kind of goes like one way or the other, large in part. I feel like different bare knuckle fighters I talk to in terms of like the hand strengthening. Like, some guys will swear by, different techniques, like working with like the wooden Muay Thai boards or like gripping sand and stuff. And then some guys are like, I don't need to be doing any of that. So a waste of time almost. Like, where are you at in that kind of sense? Like, do you do any unique hand strengthening, or are there plenty galvanized and good to go already?
I think my hands have got pretty calloused over the years. I've hit quite a few people over the years. I think they're okay.
And I guess in terms of how like the sparring might be curated, because I've also talked to certain bare knuckle fighters who will kind of like just defer to like working with like the bigger, more like Queensbury rules size gloves, but then some guys also like the, I guess, MMA glove style sparring to, I guess, replicate the range as closest as they can, but also for more like precision work, I suppose. Like, how have you been, I guess, curating like the gloves dynamic as you train and all?
The same thing. I've been mixing it up depending on the different training partners, different scenarios. coach will build up a different situation, and sometimes I'm going straight bare knuckle. Sometimes I'm throwing with 16-ounce gloves with these big boys. But it's either way. Like I was saying, it depends on what sort of situational training we're doing at the moment.
And kind of interesting, just with you mentioning like being, in Winnipeg preparing for this. I think it'd be cool to, see the sport eventually, go out there and everything like that. Hopefully the regulatory hurdles there are kind of minimal. It might be cool to get in a hometown fight one day and stuff like that, like get in a home area kind of throwdown. Is that something you would perhaps like to do one day, or like what's the regulatory landscape out there for that potentially, you think?
That would just be unreal to have a bare knuckle event here in Winnipeg. I mean, Winnipeg is some of the rowdiest fans in Canada. I mean, murder capital. we got quite a few rowdy people here that like to scrap. And I mean, any event, regardless if it's bare knuckle, boxing, MMA, whatever it is, Winnipeg stands behind it and supports it like nothing else. So I've always been proud to fight out of Winnipeg. I've had the best support, the best friends, the best fans, the best family behind me since day one, and I'll stand behind Winnipeg as well. It's just one of the best places to fight out of, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, stellar fight market. You're totally correct in that regard. And I did mention kind of earlier the connectivity with your opponent here, like someone you have a bit of MMA history with. And I spoke to him the other day, and he was talking about how like the utilizing of the grappling and like a bit of a weight advantage he had. He was like describing it, not verbatim, but almost saying he like pseudo got lucky, or at the very least like leaned into some of those attributes to kind of, get the win there, and definitely, spoke highly of your skills in as far as like not resting on any kind of idea of like, oh, I got this MMA win years ago, so this next fight is going to play out similarly. Like, I guess, can you give your own perspectives into that MMA fight and just your recollections of how that Havoc FC title fight in the MMA ranks went down years ago?
Yeah, Grayson and I fought a few years back. He ended up getting the win. He did everything properly in the fight. He just like he was saying, he took advantages of his strengths and ended up being able to control me on the ground, and he did. He ended up doing everything properly, and unfortunately capitalized on some of my mistakes, and he did great. And I shake his hand, and he came out the winner. Not going to be the same this turnaround, but no, like I said, Grayson and I we're friends, and I actually couldn't be happier stepping into the cage or stepping into the ring again with somebody else, because nothing but respect, and I wouldn't want to be making history with anybody else.
No, that's cool to hear. It seems like there's mutual respect and just, good impressions all around. So yeah, I'd love to hear that from you guys. But something that I was kind of asking Grayson about as well, just because I thought the grappling in the MMA fight there kind of like played an interesting role in all of this, just in as far as like what the rule set for this fight might be, because BKFC obviously utilizes more of that like active clinch kind of rule set and stuff like that, whereas other leagues out there like Valor BK or BKB don't really have any meaningful amount of clinch time, and it's more like that at range kind of fighting and everything like that. Like, what are the rules for this? Like, is there some level of active clinch allowed? Is it mostly range fighting and the referee will break up the clinches, or how's that all gonna go?
I believe it's going to be a little bit of a mixture of both. Nothing, not going to be over clinching, nothing, but it'll allow us to, get some range, get a bit of a fight going. A lot of this, because it is sort of new to Canada, new to Alberta. We're going to have to be going through it all with the commission. They have that sort of stuff, and just making sure going through things with the commission of the weigh-ins, things like that, and just making sure pre-fight that everything's on track with all the fighters on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part and parcel with being part of something like this, just like I was kind of saying in the intro, just with there being multiple fights on this card and that precedent not already being set and all.
Yeah, definitely. Multiple fights on the card. Not only is it bare knuckle, it's also mixed martial arts as well on the card. So there's definitely going to be some different rules, different scoring, different situations on the in the event as well. So the pre-fight stuff is quite crucial with the commission and the officials, just to go through what they're going to allow, what they're not going to allow, even for different rules with standing 8 counts, and it is a different game out there now. So they're going to have to clarify everything the day before.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It'll be interesting to follow along with and see how all of that progresses and everything. I mean, this isn't really fight related, but one of the things that I noticed in kind of doing my research on you, it seems like you're big into hitting up the metal shows. Is that kind of like put on the back burner in the preparations for this fight? Like maybe hit up a metal show after, and you're kind of like, holding it down a little bit, like keeping it chill, like what's going on in that regard?
Well, I wouldn't say I'd be shying away from any metal shows. I love going to a lot of the concerts. My daughter and I, Allison, she's a big heavy metal fan, so it's nice to go and enjoy them with her. We'll be heading back out to Alberta for Metallica, the big show at the end of the summertime, and so. But I've got a few other ones lined up, but nothing in the next couple of weeks. Full focus on the fight.
Yeah, that's cool though. So is that like something that she's into and you're kind of like learning from a bit? Are you a guy that's been into metal for like a while yourself, or what's the deal with that?
I've always been into metal and the grunge scene and that style of music, but it's definitely been almost a resurgence and a reawakening in the past couple of years with my daughter, because she's a pretty talented electric guitarist, and it's been nice because I never have to yell at her, turn that shit down or turn that music down. It's always good music. It's turn it up, right? So it's it's pretty nice hearing good tunes around the house and not having to listen to the pop music all the time.
No, that must be so cool, man. Just like seeing, your kids kind of come into their own and develop their own interests, and also the proficiency with the guitar. So that must be amazing for you.
Yeah, well, she's definitely a lot more educated with her music knowledge especially in the rock scene and the metal scene. She could tell you anything, and she makes me look silly because she's like, Dad, didn't you live through this? Like, she knows everything about every band. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I could...
New all the time.
Yeah, no, it's great. I was just going to say, from what I could tell, it seems like you guys have checked off most of the, big four of thrash there. Like you mentioned Metallica, and then it seemed like you guys hit up Anthrax and also Megadeth. So yeah, I mean, hopefully Slayer comes back for like a reunion tour or something to kind of get that all checked off or something.
Yeah, exactly. They end up, Slayer's actually going to be with Metallica in Edmonton when we see them.
Oh, true. Okay, right on.
So it'll be pretty big show. So 3-day event.
No, just kind of reminds me of like back in the day for me. Like my first concert was Megadeth, so I just thought it was cool to kind of see all of that, and then the bonding component is awesome too, man.
Yeah, and you know what? We saw Megadeth last year, and Dave Mustaine was phenomenal. He was great, and it was one of the best shows we've seen.
Yeah, I actually got the Rust in Peace memoir for a Christmas gift, and I mean, just a great read. I think I finished it in like 1 or 2 sittings, so yeah, a great one for sure.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I love me some metal, but I also love me some bare knuckle, and to that point, very appreciative of you taking the time to come on the show and give such great insights, Steve. But in wanting to be mindful of your time and schedule there, man, I'm curious if maybe you have like a final parting thought to add as we're sort of wrapping up, man.
Final parting thought, you know what, just, hey, thanks everybody for the support, and you know what, don't miss out and tune in. If you can still get a chance to buy some tickets for Havoc on February 9th. It's also going to be streaming on Fight TV. So like I said, tune in. You got the main event, heavyweight championship, bare knuckle champ already talking to you on the line right now. But other than that, let's get this going and tune in for February 9th.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome card with Havoc FC 17, some great MMA, as well as some historical bare knuckle action. And this Grayson Wells fight is going to be an awesome heavyweight title collision. Two great individuals for a moment like this. But to reiterate, thanks so much for coming on Bare Knuckle Radio, man. I'm looking forward to peeping this fight when it goes down. But until then, you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for the time.
Thanks again, Dylan. Talk to you soon.